You are listening to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss our RC adventures.
Welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast, where we discuss the ups and downs of the new RC Flyer. Join your hosts, Michael and Jay, as they take flight at the park. Now on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Park Flyer Podcast. I'm Michael from Arizona, and with me always are my good friends.
Jay from the hills of Texas.
And Shannon G and Mesa AZ.
And we are excited to have you here on the podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. Make sure you give us a thumbs up and definitely share it for us. That helps our channel grow. We are very, very excited to have Larry Cyphers with us from 5280RC out in Denver. Larry, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me on. It was a nice invite, and happy to hop on here and talk about what we're doing here at up in Denver. So.
Well, that's very, very nice of you to take your time with us. Just a quick intro. The fact that how Larry and I got kind of hooked up is Scott, who we've had on the podcast, Scott Berryman. He was purchasing an airplane, and I think he connected with Larry because Larry had one for sale. And in the course of all that, he mentioned us and then said, hey, I think you really like to get up with Larry. He's got some really cool products on his website. So we are excited about that. So Larry, why don't you kind of kick it off, introduce yourself, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm located just south of Denver in Centennial, and started flying during COVID like a lot of other people, right? And
right.
And then my brother-in-law and we started getting into EDF jets, and he was talking, this back in the winter of 21, and he was like, hey, I'm looking at these afterburners, and I was like, you want to do what? And he's like, no, it's like a light, and it goes in the back of the motor, and I was like, okay, and we started looking, and there were some designs out there, and the lead times were really long, and the websites weren't super user friendly, and he was kind of frustrated. And I was like, well, let me just see if I can build one. I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and have a mechanical engineering degree with a concentration in robotics, and so
oh, wow.
Programming microcontrollers and all this kind of stuff. I was like, okay, this is an easy pot, right? So put one together, and there was this guy at the field, Mike, who has a channel called Deuce's Wild RC. And I gave one to Mike too, because I bought a bunch of parts, right, to build them, and I had enough to build 5, I think. And I had also acquired a 3D printer during COVID. And I was like, oh, this is a cool marriage, right? So 3D printed a little amount and made it up and gave one to Mike, and Mike was like, man, this is really good. I was like, oh, and he's like, you should start a business. And I was like, you know what? That's always been on my list, right? Is have something that's mine, start a business, sure. Right? Everybody's dream, right? And,
right.
3+ years later and thousands of units, worldwide, and we just keep improving on the products, and 6 3D printers now, right? And then my son's helping me build. I pay him kind of a summer job, and getting it really efficient as far as running the business and making it a good product for customers. And it's just been a ton of fun, so really, really proud of the products that we have, and people really enjoy using them, and it's a neat experience, right? You take a plane that you really enjoy flying, and now you can add something a little bit extra to it, right? And
right.
We've got a couple of different versions. We've got kind of entry level product, and then a middle, and then the best, right? Give people options and try to make it as easy as possible. People go to the website and they're like, I have this plane, I have this E-flite, FMS, free wing, arrows, those are kind of the more popular ones. I have this plane, click on it. Okay. Tell us a little bit about, maybe the motor, version 1, version 2, right? We put those details in there. And then from a drop down menu, you're like, okay, this is the unit I want, and place the order, and you're on your way. Right. So, and just kind of due to demand and lead time, we're it takes about 2 weeks ish to get them out, but we try to run with inside of 2 weeks, right? Get them out the door. So
That is very, very cool.
yeah.
Well, how you said you started flying during COVID, but how did you? I mean, was it something you just decided, hey, I want to go fly RC, or were you doing it as a kid before? Or
Yeah.
how'd you
So
get into this hobby?
yeah, you know, growing up in the 80s and reading RC Control magazine, right? I was enamored
Sure,
with stadium trucks and RC car racing and all that, and then did that for a number of years, and then kids, family, life, adulting
sure. Life gets in the way.
paused, and couldn't spend all the time at the track and whatnot, and then so anything remote control, it's fun, right?
Hmm.
And the airplanes were always on there, but I was just really nervous about, and you crash an RC car, you break a $5, A arm or a link or something, right? You crash an
Sure,
airplane, ooh, what's involved in this, right? And
right.
Yeah, a
as
bag of
everyone,
dust.
yeah, exactly, right.
Popcorn,
Styrofoam, yeah.
popcorn.
And as every good RC pilot knows, man, you're that first plane that you crash, like you're just all the emotion, right? And then the
Yeah,
15th plane that you crash, you're like, whatever, big deal.
right.
So, uh,
Yeah, that's the way it works.
yeah, but yeah, definitely got up to like the planes that I really wanted to fly, like P-38s and big P-47s, right? And um,
Hmm.
so I've done those and all the jets and that kind of stuff. And in our local field, we kind of had an outlaw field, I would call it here, and that's how I met because I was selling off some of my bigger planes. Where I'm like, man, driving an hour to the legit field,
Right.
family and commitments. I'm like, probably not going to be able to do that. I'm probably going to end up flying a lot of UMXs, right? Is kind of where my jam is right now.
Sure,
But still
sure.
having fun. Like, my favorite plane right now is like the E-flite erratics. Like that thing is just awesome, right?
Hmm.
You can flip that thing around in a park and have it
Right.
hover and all that. So, yeah,
That's very, very
yeah.
cool. Yeah, we call those pirate fields. You're kind of pirating out there, and
Yeah.
you do it at the school or in the, down at the local, um, you know, hobby store parking lot, wherever that might be.
Yeah.
That's pretty
This,
funny.
this field,
Well, we,
this field was amazing. I mean, it's called David Lawrence,
mm,
several acres of AstroTurf on top of a
Oh,
hill.
wow.
wow.
And I mean, so we had our regular crew, Sundays we kind of all get together, our little club, and it could be up to maybe
Hmm.
10 guys. And, we get out there and it was one man at a time because it's 3, 4 minutes, right? Big deal.
Hmm.
And, but you could take off always into the wind, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so it's on top of a dump, and the city owns it, and they're going to lease
Oh,
it
yeah.
to RV storage now.
Oh,
Yep.
kind of
A little
a
bit of a
bummer.
bummer, but flying jets on
Mhm.
AstroTurf is awesome because
Oh,
you
yeah.
just bring it in, and man, they slow right down, right? I mean, it's great. So
Yeah, Jay flies his off of grass. They do the same thing. His slows way down,
yeah,
really fast.
yeah,
But
And
it is hard
sometimes
on the
take off the
landing gear,
gear
though.
too. So
yeah,
That's true. It's true.
yeah,
Jay lives in Texas, so the grass is more clumpiness than anything than AstroTurf.
there
But
you go.
that's pretty funny. Well, Shannon, I think, has uh, something he wants to tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Larry, we've actually emailed a couple times because you've been a big sponsor the last couple years of the Arizona Electric
Oh,
Festival.
there we
So I
go.
really want to thank you.
Awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's how we all got together here. Is these guys came in and they were doing a show
yeah.
and not even telling me about it the first couple
yeah,
years. It was like kind of like clandestine, and then I'm like, guys, I want to talk about my event,
yeah.
and we've been buddies ever since.
Sure.
So,
Nice.
but you sent out some of your afterburners, and the guys really have loved them. And we got in, and again, I hope we're having an AEF again, so hopefully
Yeah,
maybe you can come down
Yeah.
this time.
Have to come on
If
down.
you get a chance. It's in February, and we'd love to have you come down here because it's a great event. If I didn't send enough pictures or you didn't see enough coverage online, let me know. But it's for the electric guy like all we are. We just like having fun and flying.
Yeah.
It's still one of the best events, and we'd love to have you come down and be a part of that too.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. In fact, my folks live in Mesa. They're off Rucker
There you
Road
go.
over there. So yeah,
Sounds like it's meant to
That's
be.
there
it.
you go.
I was going
Yeah.
to say the field that we
Yeah.
go to is in Mesa, so that's
Oh, it
half the
is.
battle. Yeah.
You're just
Okay,
yeah,
very cool. Very cool.
Brown and Meridian, so not that far at all way
Yeah.
off from where your
Okay.
parents live.
It's the
Awesome.
Superstition Air Park. If you have Real Flight or any of that stuff, you can actually fly at that particular
On that.
field on Real Flight. So it's kind of cool.
Oh, that's awesome. All
And
right.
it's funny because I think I have one of your actual afterburners because I think I won it at the at the AZ Electric Festival.
you
Oh, that's
did.
great.
I did.
Yeah.
I remembered it after I saw it online because Scott asked me when he called me. I guess you guys were standing there, but he asked me. He's like, "Hey, do you use the afterburners?" And I was like, "No, most of the stuff I fly right now is turbines. So I mean, that
Okay.
goes inside the EDF." I was like, "No, I don't use any EDF type airplanes that have afterburners." And he's like, "Oh, well, Larry's got these." And so I looked them up, and then I was like, "Wait a second, I do have one of those." And I think it's
Yeah.
sitting on my shelf right back here. It's in a box still because I don't have anything that I fly with an afterburner. So I
Gotcha.
didn't really want to put something in there that wasn't really. I'm a very big scale guy, so it's got to be a
Yeah.
little more scale. So I have an L39 that it would fit in perfectly, but the
Yeah.
L39s don't have afterburners, and I always think it looks kind of goofy if you have an airplane that does something different than what the real one does. And that's just my, being a pilot. I'm kind of one of those guys that sticks to the blueprint of what actually is going on.
Yeah,
So
it's so funny, right? Because I call you guys the scale police, right?
the scale,
So
please. Yeah.
yeah, the scale police, right? And I years ago I had a buddy at the field who had an A10, right? And he
Mhm.
flight A10, and he's like, "Hey, do you think you could put an afterburner in that?" And I was like, "Well, the A10 didn't have
Technically, yes.
afterburners,
Yeah.
right?" And he's like,
Sure.
"Yeah, I don't care," right? And so the scale police don't pay for my plane. I'm like, "Cool, let's do it," right? And so
Scale
we
police.
designed one up and put it
Pull
in,
it
and
over. Pull it over.
I sell quite a few of those, right?
Really?
The A10s, yeah,
That's
for
funny.
That's
A10,
funny.
That is funny.
and it's just kind of one
Yeah,
of
well,
those things. It's been my regular job dealt so much. We were impacted so much with supply chain after
Mhm.
COVID and all that, and I was just chief apology officer, right, in my regular job, and it
Right.
was like just I like pleasing people, right? I'm in sales, and not being able to do that was really frustrating. And this business was like, it started to get some runway and take off, but it was like a mental health type thing
Mhm.
because as bad as my regular job was, I could leave my basement, go into my lab, and put together an order.
Right.
And the best sound was the tape going on the box and
Right.
like a label. And I'm like, you know what? That's going to make somebody pretty excited.
Sure.
Right. And so that was really cool. And just customer service too. Like people have a problem. I'm like, all right, no worries. Like I'll send you, a replacement unit. Right. Stuff
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
And if you do it 8 times, I may ask like, maybe we should get on the phone and figure out your setup, right? So,
You're burning
but
out my LEDs.
yeah, exactly. But it's just been it's been really enjoyable, and you connect with a lot of interesting people like you guys. So
Yeah. Well, we thank you. Thank you very much.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm
I was going
kind
to
of.
say the nice part is there's not many layers between you and your customers.
That's
right?
true.
I mean,
Yeah.
some of the companies we've dealt with in the past. I mean, you're just lucky to get the right guy that can get you an interview
Yeah.
or whatever.
Mhm.
And I mean, this took all of like less than a week and loosey goosey from a guy knowing a guy to the next
Yeah.
guy, a
Yeah.
couple of phone calls, and it
Yeah.
was done. And I was
Yeah.
like, wow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
this is the easiest ever. I like this.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish everything could be like that, right?
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So
Well, we've been pretty lucky in our we've been doing this 9 years now, and we've been pretty lucky. We've had a lot of guests on the show, and some are bigger companies. The CEOs or the guys up at the very top, and they were a little bit tougher to get. They're just not.
yeah.
But it's good when we have. I mean, you could say this a small business, right? You're not a Horizon
100%.
Hobbies
Yeah.
kind of thing. So
Yeah, no, we're not in
Yeah.
the and for a split second, I was like, man, I had a really good month, right?
Yeah.
This is maybe about a year ago, and I was like, wow, all right, here's the dream, right?
Right.
And then then the reality sets in.
Right.
Healthcare. I gotta do this every day,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
Yeah, then it
uh,
wouldn't be fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I've talked to quite a few people who their hobby became their business,
Mm-hmm.
and they want nothing to do with the hobby anymore, right?
Yeah,
And
I
so,
actually did that.
Right.
That was actually 2 businesses for me that worked.
okay,
So it got big, and then it got to the point where
When you did the motocross
What's
stuff,
that?
or I said, was that the
yeah,
motocross stuff?
motocross and the graphic stuff too. So it just got to the point where,
yeah,
but
the graphics.
but okay. So I'm a little interested in this in kind of a little bit more technical side, and if you can't go into it, I totally
yeah.
understand. There's probably some NDAs out there, but how do you come up with the actual LED size for? I mean, how did that actually occur? You know, because I mean, like I can screw an LED bulb; it's got a little, diode or something in there, and it works kind of like an LED. But I've seen yours are long, and they have a lot of them, and you can get them different colors and brightness,
Yeah.
and I'm just interested in how you went through this development to get something from a diode to this nice bulbous, screws into the back of it.
Yeah. Um, you know, any good solution is usually the
Mm-hmm.
simplest. So you just start looking at automobiles, right? And what do they
Sure.
use? And so it's a turn signal LED,
Really?
right? Yeah, readily available, um, not not hard to
Yeah.
source, right? The special sauce is in the
Right.
controller and being able to take your throttle signal and then, get that to affect the
Mm.
LED, right? So, and there's some programming in there that we had to do and um, lessons learned and all that kind of stuff. So that's really the
Right.
IP, right? The parts and pieces are pretty straightforward, and that's how I can keep the price down
Mm-hmm.
too, right? I've got a couple of designs I'm working on for 64 millimeter jets. I love 64 millimeter jets because they are low
Right.
stress, right? You take the gear
Yeah.
off them, you can throw
Yeah.
them, bring them in, you float them, and you just land them on the grass, and you're like, rip a couple of packs, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, that was great, right? So as opposed to imagine flying a turbine jet. I've heard it described as holding your head underwater for 5 minutes,
It
right?
can be. Yeah.
First
It
flight.
depends on who it is, but yeah, I can see how that would work. Yeah.
Yep. Just high
Yeah.
stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's my hobby
Mm-hmm.
stressing me out. So, um, and even then, like, anytime I'm looking at a new design, I'm always trying to find what's the most readily available part that I can get from suppliers that is a low price
Right.
point, right? Because it doesn't make any sense to have a great design for a 64 millimeter plane that, the plane costs $150 and I got $100 afterburner,
Eh,
right? That doesn't make
I don't
sense.
know. You haven't been to
So,
my shop, so
okay. Yeah.
I've got a $200
Yeah.
airplane with a $400 gyro in it. So yeah, I know exactly
Oh, yeah.
how
Yeah.
that stuff works.
Okay.
But no, it's
Yep.
just I'm bad about it. If I find something that I really like, I kind of stick with it because settings are the same, and I kind of get used to how it flies. And I'm a big Demon Cortex guy, so I've got a Demon in almost every one of my airplanes. And everybody's like, this
Yeah.
little unit is more than the actual plane, right? This is a foam plane, and you've got a turbine jet, processor in it. And I was like, yeah, but I like the way it flies, so it makes my life
Yeah.
easier.
Yep.
So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
great.
well, so 5280 RC. Obviously, you're in Denver, and that's a mile. So,
Yep.
how'd you come about that?
I was just sitting there. I was at the field and talking with my buddy Mike and I was like, I'm like we're at 5,280 feet above sea level. Everybody knows that
Sure.
as Denver, right? And I was like 5280 RC and did a quick Google search and I was like, okay, signed up the LLC, got the
Yeah.
website going. I was like, all right. And then I got my first order. And then I was like, oh man, okay, right? Like
Right.
here we go. And Yeah, and then it's so funny. Like it's the little
Mm,
things, like just figuring out the right size boxes and like how to
right.
package this stuff, and how to deal with multiple orders, or multiple products in the same order and
Mm,
that kind of stuff, and international shipping, um, and just dealing with that. So yeah, it's been fun. I think we're through a lot of the major
mm-hmm.
learning curves now, to the point where I've got like my son helping me build stuff. I got a buddy that helps me put them together as well. So that way I can just kind of keep my stress level down, and the time that I'm
Right.
working on it, like low too, right? Because I only have so
Mm.
much time available to do this
Sure.
as well. But
We're all kind of in that same boat.
no, yeah, exactly, right. And you don't want it to be, it's fun. The money, that you make from it's kind of mad
Mm.
money, right? Buy a bunch of planes and
Right.
then you sell them on Facebook Marketplace when your field closes and you have a lot
Right.
of people,
Right.
right? So,
That's funny. That's awesome.
yeah, um, yeah.
So when are you gonna become the official afterburner light for the Denver Nuggets?
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. Uh, I don't know. All that stuff, they would probably charge money, right? But that's kind
Yeah.
of what they want,
That's
you know.
funny.
So, yeah, yeah.
So Larry, where's the most obscure place that you've sent one of your lights?
Oh, wow.
For us, like on the podcast, we had some place in what was it? Some place in Africa, some
Yeah.
in the jungle, like
Yeah.
Oh my
Somewhere in
Central
like the
Africa,
Congo or
and
somewhere.
we're like, we have some listener there,
No
yeah,
way.
who's listening to us. And we're
No.
like,
Yeah. I get it. I mean,
yeah, and we're like, wow, how this guy find us and listens
right.
to us regularly,
Yeah.
and the analytics were crazy, but that one just kind of took us because we're just like, whoa, some dude probably has a wire, ran it up the side of a
Right.
mountain, dangling it off to,
I
you
know.
know,
It was pretty surprising.
to hear us and to do our stuff, and yeah. So I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
like, where was some there that you had to look up and go, where's this country or where's this place?
There was a guy on a small island in the
Hmm.
UK, right? And why do I know that? Because he had an issue with the post office, right? And we were trying to chase it down for him, right? Um,
Yeah.
Australia, New Zealand, Japan, um, Hong Kong, like um, not anything in Russia, but a lot of
Hmm.
Eastern
Hmm.
Bloc countries
Yeah.
around there, right? I mean, I should take all that data and throw it into a mapping program and just see
Yeah.
where it all sits, right? I mean, that would
That's
be
kind of what our
great.
analytics do. That's how we know our show kind of goes all over the world. And actually,
Yeah,
France just moved up to the number
yeah,
2 spot over Canada. So we have some people that, yeah,
really.
evidently some
Yeah,
new listeners in France that bumped it up a little bit. But
that's
yeah,
very cool.
it's kind of cool to
Very
watch,
cool.
monthly what the, where the downloads happen and that kind of thing and who's listening. But
Yeah.
we're excited to have it. Now, are there other products other than afterburners, or do you plan on doing anything other than those?
It's you find your niche and you kind of
Hmm.
exploit your
Yeah.
niche, right? And so, we've really kind of slotted in on the afterburners, and we always dabble out a little bit, but it's always still on the plain side. We make an RC whistle, kind of like a copy
Yep.
of the Nerf,
Hmm.
whistles, right? So uh,
Mhm.
we have those. Anything that I can use my existing
Right.
investment, right? So I've got these 3D printers. I'm like, all right, let's keep them running. We do make plane hangers. We've kind of goofed around with some stuff for
Hmm.
Corsairs, like radial engines and that kind of stuff. But um, yeah, for now, I mean, we're kind of happy where we're at, right? Because it's back into this sweet spot as far as
Right.
time, right? And low stress and just having fun, because it's supposed to be
Right.
fun, right? And not I've got a real job where if I need
Sure.
stress, right? So
Now, are they're FDM printers?
yeah, bed
Yeah.
slingers, basically, like
Yeah. Creality bed.
Creality type,
Um,
so yeah.
yeah, we're
um,
familiar. We're actually friends with Eric with 3D Aero Ventures. He's the one that 3D prints the airplanes and flies. He's got a couple of the designs out there. And
oh,
we've
oh
flown some
wow,
3D.
yeah.
Matter of fact, I just printed one out. I crashed mine that Eric had given him at the Arizona Electric Festival, and we kind of printed some out.
Yeah.
Where I'll tell you though, what's really easy to print and you probably could put out there is an ECU holder.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
ECU
for most of the
holder.
turbine guys, there's a little ECU that runs the turbine, and everybody tries to figure
Okay.
out where to stick that. And it's just a little. I just need it to clip in there, but it's a very simple.
Yeah.
If you kind of dig around, I'm sure you'll probably find one. Somebody's probably got one out there, but with as many turbine
Yeah.
guys and the turbine world has come down, where you used to have to, Jay and I used to make fun of all these guys that had, 30 or 40 grand into a turbine, and now it's come down where it's, a foam. It's
Now our one.
yeah, I know. He always busting my chops, like, we'll never own one of those. And then of course I got duped into flying one, and that was all it took. So
Yeah.
people know my
Oh, yeah.
personality, they just have to dangle a carrot in my face, and I'm usually like a rabid dog. Just jump on there.
Yep.
Now I own like
I
5 of them,
I
so
hear ya.
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
But I got more airplanes. You probably can see the
ECU.
back of the shop. I got more airplanes than I know what to do with. They're everywhere. They're all over
I
the place.
know. I know. They
Mhm.
multiply. They're like
Yeah.
gremlins.
Yeah, that's right. They're next door in the garage, and I just got a new one in the mail just day before yesterday. We're gonna have to do a podcast on that, but yeah, I had a birthday just recently, and
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
you did.
I sent that to you.
And actually, if I put an EDF in that one, that would look pretty cool with the afterburner in it. This airplane he got me is
Yeah.
supposed to do 300 miles an hour. I don't know if it really will, but
Holy
it's foam. So, but we'll see. And it's got a pretty rad motor on the back of it, so we'll have to see if it actually does it. They did. He sent me the video of the guy, and he did a 600 kilometers an hour is what he said it was doing, and that's like 333 miles an hour, which I don't really. He did it with a Doppler flyby, and I think that's a little off. But I'm thinking the size of this
man.
thing and the weight of this thing, I can't imagine it doing 300 miles an hour. But
I had a V900, right? Because you as you get
Right.
as a better pilot, you're like, oh, okay, let's see, and then
Sure.
flexing a little bit because you got other guys that yield, like, all right, who's
Right.
got the fast one, right? And that V900, it's awesome, but man, I could only just rip it across the field and take it straight
Yeah.
up and turn it, right? Because you're just like, all right, and then after a while, you're like, and you're so amped up after flying that thing, you're just like, all right, man, I gotta
Right.
chill out for a little while, right? Like,
Yeah.
you go ahead,
Next.
right?
Go, y'all go ahead. Go ahead of me. That's funny.
Yep,
That is
exactly.
great. Yeah, Jay got me into flying some wings way back in the day, and those things are well over 3 digits. So we went and chased each other one time, and I ran next to a cell tower and hit the ground doing well over 108 miles an hour. So surprisingly enough,
Oh,
it
yeah.
shattered every carbon spar that I had in that airplane, but it didn't do it. Yeah, it just powdered. Like I just poured it out of the, but it didn't hurt the foam at all. It kind of smashed the
Really?
nose a little bit,
Yeah,
but
just
it
had to
just
put it in-
bounced, and then I just dumped all the carbon fiber, put new rods in it, and went back up in the air. Yeah, it was
No
crazy.
way.
But it hit the ground so
Oh yeah,
perfectly flat. It just made this crumph,
Yeah.
like crumple noise, and it was just like, oh, that
and
did
it was
not sound good.
Wow.
And we went over there and just kind of picked it up, and it flopped. And I'm like, ooh, that ain't good. So we're like, oh, did it break the carbon rod in it? And it's
Just
just
dumped
like,
it out.
It's just stuff just poured out. We're like,
shattered it.
oh man, we can't just can't put a little CA in that and just call it.
No, but it's
good.
still flying today. Actually, Jay flew it
that carbon
just
rod.
in February, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing.
That's wild.
Yeah, and
plane won't die.
he's tried.
And
I
you
know.
didn't want to.
He's tried to destroy it several times. We used them as combat wings, actually. Believe it or not, we'd try and hit each other. It's pretty fun. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot harder than people think.
Is it a
Mhm.
rear
Yeah, it's a pusher
prop,
prop.
setup?
Mhm.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Oh man, those
Yeah.
things. Oh god, you gotta know what you're doing launching one of those.
Yeah, if you hold it by the nose and just throw it over your head, you're fine. So
Wow.
I know a lot of guys
Yeah.
take it and they try to launch it forward with the prop going over their head or whatever. But
Yeah.
we just stand there and put your hand right on the nose of it and then just fling it up past you, and the thing flies great.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't ever come close to the prop.
Wow.
So No.
Really? That's
Mhm.
awesome. The
Yep. It's just a weird. It's a weird
Yeah.
throw that most people aren't used to doing, but because the weight to ratio of power
Yeah.
level, it's easy to accomplish because you can pretty much almost take the wings that we fly up off the ground,
Yeah.
right on the winglets and take straight off, take right off the ground.
okay.
Except the P torque kind of gets you.
I've done
But
it.
other than that, yeah, they're pretty easy to. I mean, after you do the
Yeah.
launch once or twice, you're like, oh, this is easy, just to
Yeah,
toss it.
it's kind of a floater, but
without having to miss a digit or so.
That-
That type
That's
of
the
thing.
thing.
So,
There was a guy at our field. He was launching
Yeah.
a plane for a buddy, and it
Mhm.
was a rear, a pusher. Holy cow, man! That thing ripped
Yeah, I
through
bet.
his hand. I mean,
Yeah.
just like butter.
Eh,
To the bone.
Yeah.
And so we're all taping them up, and we're just like, oh god.
Yeah.
dude, like,
That's
so
it's
definitely
funny.
got no
I was my doctor's appointment. I was talking to them, and they had some Blenderm there, and I was trying to get it from them, And he's like, "Why do you need Blenderm?" And I was like, "Oh man, I use it for my RC airplanes. That's like the best stuff ever. This high grade Blenderm." And he started laughing. He's like, "Well, you can get this online." I was like, "I know. I have a whole case of it at home." So everybody, Jay can testify. I think I've got Blenderm in pretty much every room and in every little box that I have because I'm always either cutting myself or slicing myself open, and I just put that
Oh,
tape on there, so I know all about that. But it's pretty funny.
there you go. There you go.
yeah, we could probably have another podcast just talking about using RC tools to do surgery.
Yeah.
What? Oh my gosh, that cuts too
Yeah,
deep. Give me
my
CA
wife hates
stat,
it.
Yeah.
She hates it.
Yeah.
All right.
She's like, "Why do you put glue on yourself?" I go, "That's what they do at the doctor, CA the cut." Fine. Jay and I were at the field. I just CA'd it shut, And he's like, "Okay, good." Put a little blender on it,
There
good to
you
go.
go. That's what it was invented for too, though, right? I mean, that
Yeah.
super glue was for
That's it. That's what it was
military
for.
use,
Yeah.
right?
Triage,
Yeah.
out in the field. Just
Yeah.
glue the guy shut, put him back in action.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
The kicker stings
Yeah.
a little bit.
You don't have to use a kicker. It'll go on its own. Trust me.
Yeah.
Just kind of blow on it. That
Yeah.
that moisture in the air will
Yeah.
cause it to kind of bind. So, well, listen, we don't want to take up too much of your time. We do appreciate you choosing us. Tell us
Okay.
how to get to tell our listeners how to order your product.
Yeah.
How
So
they
That's
can
right.
get their
yeah, get their unit. Well, yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on the show. I just set up a special discount
very
for all
nice.
your users and viewers. It's Park Flyer 2024, and so they'll get 10% off the entire order, one-time use per customer, for the
Nice.
next 30 days. So we can say
Sure.
thanks to
Thank you very
guys
much.
for having us on, and the website is 5280RC. That's spelled out. To be honest with you, if you type in 5280 Afterburner, it will pop up. Right, we're in all the
Sure.
Google
Sure.
search engine stuff. I pay for the ads and do all that, and we pop right up.
All
there,
right,
so.
5280RC, and that's all spelled out. And then how do they reach you? It can be info, right? That's where you told me.
Yeah. So on our website, there's a contact us section there down at the bottom, or you can just send us an email, info@5280RC, spelled out FIFTY8IGHTY.
Forgot the 2.
No, I missed the 2. I forgot it. Yeah, man. I wanted 5280.com. I couldn't get it, so
Yeah.
I had to spell it all out. Yeah, so 5280RC.
All right, not a problem. We'll put a link in our description so that they can just click on there
Awesome.
and
Thank
go. Awesome. It's so great to have you on the show. We do appreciate your time. But our time is up. So from here in Arizona, I'm Michael.
And I'm Jay from the hills of Texas.
And Shannon G and Mesa AZ.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Let's fly.
You have been listening to the Park Flyer Podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your next visit. Please give our show a star rating and review, and feel free to email us your questions, topics, or suggestions to parkflyerpodcast@gmail.com.